Yeah, get used to seeing that death screen because you're going to see it a lot when you play this game. Anyway, what's up everyone, it's me Wrexpert, and this time we got Dark Souls Remastered on our table. The Dark Souls series was a game series that I have been avoiding for too long. I've always heard from my friends how good the game is, and a lot of them praise the game. I've mostly heard that the game is insanely hard and requires a lot of patience to get through it. Maybe that's the reason why I haven't wanted to play it, because I don't like the idea of that I need to bust my balls in some game. Because to me personally, games are supposed to be straightforward and fun, and not feel like some work or a task that I need to complete or anything. Many people have suggested me to start playing this game as well, and now I finally did, and boy was it one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had. And yes, I did bust my balls playing through this game. The game begins in the world of Dark Souls, where the lore is little explained, but trust me, there is lore in this game, and lots of it. I'm just not that great when it comes to the lores of a particular game. But for starters, let's just say that Dark Souls take place in a fictional kingdom of Lord Dran, where you, the player, take the role of a cursed undead character, where you begin your own pilgrimage to discover the fate of your own kind. I'm not gonna tell the whole story now in this review because I don't want to spoil it for you, but most of the lore in this game comes from many of the items that you find, the areas you travel through, and cryptic stories told by the NPCs. The gameplay of Dark Souls is really simple to understand. You have your basic attack moves, and you can block with a shield or with a weapon as well. You can also counter-attack enemies by using a parry move, where you hit block just as the enemy attacks you. This allows you to perform finishing moves to the enemies, delivering serious amount of damage, almost instantly killing them immediately. You get to level up your character, and you get to choose how you build your character. Are you going to be a heavy armored badass with high strength who deals high damage, or a more faster character with high dexterity? You have also magic that you can use, but I never really used any magic. The choice is pretty much yours in how you build your character. I personally went with the strength build and used one-handed and shield mostly. During the end of the game I went with this badass armor called Havel's armor and equipped a two-handed weapon for it. My armor was so high basically that during the end game I didn't have to even dodge the enemies' attacks. I could basically just stand still and keep hitting the enemies and they'd die. Which was pretty funny, because dodging enemies' attacks is a main skill that you need to master in this game if you want to win. Seriously, Dark Souls is all about dodging and finding the right timing when to strike. You can't just walk into the enemy and stand still and just keep attacking and hope for them to die. You'll die pretty fast if you do that. As you progress the game, you'll earn souls, which is the currency used in the world. With souls you can buy items from shops. You can also upgrade your gear with a thing called Titanite and take them to this blacksmith called Andre. You can also buy a blacksmithing box which allows you to do the upgrade on the go. Upgrading your gear and weapons is almost mandatory if you want to deal high damage, especially as you progress further in the game. The bosses become stronger, so naturally it means you need stronger weapon damage as well. When you go further in the game, you find these bonfires, which is sort of a checkpoint where you get to rest and restore all your health to max again. If you progress further from the bonfire and then end up dying, you are going to be respawned back at the last bonfire that you found. And that's very frustrating if you've progressed so much in the game and end up dying. Every time you progressed further and find a bonfire, it's satisfying as hell to find one. Bonfires in this game are your only true friends in this game. Anyway, you get to progress the game in your own pace, and you also get to choose in which order you take the bosses down. But certain bosses you can't kill because you need some special item first from somewhere. Like for example, to enter the painted world of Ariamis, you need to have a peculiar doll which you get from the very beginning part of the entire game called the Undead Asylum. You need to return to the place and go get the doll. I didn't know how to return there until a friend of mine showed me how to get there. You need to take this very quirky shortcut in the Firelink Shrine, then you need to lay down to this big bird's nest and wait for a moment for the bird to grab you and take you back to Undead Asylum. The game is very merciless and doesn't hold hands with you during the game at all. The game tells you no directions where to go, there's no compass or any quest objective like in modern games. In modern games there's like a GPS on the map that shows you which direction to go towards the next objective. Yes, there isn't even a map in the game which you can look at. You have to figure out everything by yourself where you want to go. To be totally honest, it would have taken me ages to figure out this game if it weren't for walkthroughs. So let me just say this. It's okay to use walkthroughs in this game. You don't have to feel ashamed of it. I personally never watch any guidelines or walkthroughs when it comes to playing a game for the first time. I always want to figure out everything by myself. But in this game, it's just almost impossible if you don't use walkthroughs. You will wander around forever in the game searching for areas and clues about where to go if you don't use any walkthroughs or look up at least some guides about the game. There's also a PvP system in the game. If you want to enable it, you need to have humanity and use it. Every time you die you become hollow, which turns you into basically an undead, and then you don't have PvP enabled anymore. PvP can be a great way to get lots of souls when you kill other players. I personally like to play solo, I'm not that huge fan of PvP. Having humanity lets you also kindle in the game, giving you more health potions. Dark Souls has a very dark and disturbing atmosphere, which is great. Many of the characters talk in a very creepy voice and just seem very creepy overall.
Why, what a surprise. I didn't expect you to make it. Oh, somebody rang the bell. Wait, was it you? You never give up, do you? I don't know how you do it. Well, don't stop now. Only one more. But it's going to be suicide. Ah, your face. You're practically hollow. But who knows? Going hollow could solve quite a bit. What? Restoring your humanity? Well, there are a few ways to go about it. Collected bit by bit from corpses. Or you can butter up a cleric and get yourself summoned. And the quickest way, although I'd never do it, is to kill a healthy undead and pillage its suit. Coveting thy neighbor is only human, after all.
The game also has almost no music at all, which even enhances that atmosphere even more, making it feel like a scary horror game sometimes. In boss battles there is epic music playing in background, but that's it. 90% of the game there is no music at all. This game's graphics are gorgeous to look at, especially in this remastered version where the textures are all spiced up. I played this game on my PC in 4K resolution and it looks beautiful. The game runs in smooth 60 FPS constantly. This remastered version came out in 2018 to consoles and PC. The original Dark Souls came to PC in 2012, but it was plagued with a lot of bugs and frame rates were capped to 30 FPS, which required you to download a mod if you wanted it to work full 60 FPS. Thankfully, they fixed that in the remastered version. There's not a lot of graphics options to set, which was a bit of a disappointment for me. Yes, I know graphics shouldn't be a reason to give negative opinion about a game, but we live in 2020 and games should have a lot of customizable graphics options now, in my opinion, especially when it comes to PC gaming. One thing I also still have to mention about this game are the boss battles. They are just fantastic. Some of them are huge as hell and it feels amazing when you fight against them, and it's satisfying once you take them down. My favorite boss was probably the Gaping Dragon, which I took down by having the curse effect that gives you only half of your health bar. That's how determined I was to take him down. I didn't even remove the curse effect. Gravelord Nido was really hard as well and a really cool boss. Anyway, all of the bosses are unique and have their own tactics in how to take them down. You can also summon allies with humanity to help you fight the bosses, which in some cases is almost an absolute necessity. For example, Smogen Ornstein was probably the hardest boss in the entire game because you have to fight two at the same time. Sometimes you run out of humanity if you spend them on an ally for a boss battle, like what happened to me, for example, when trying several times to beat Smogen Ornstein with an ally, which means you need to farm humanity more. Luckily, rats in the game have a high drop rate of humanity which you can farm, but farming them can be very tedious. It took me about 3 hours to farm about 5 more humanity. I did beat all of the bosses in the game. I also played the DLC Artorias of the Abyss, which was pretty short to be honest. I completed the game in about 50 hours, and that's a long ass time for a single player experience. Most game stories are nowadays completed in about less than 10 hours, so this game is packed with lots of content, and it's sure to keep you busy for a long time. This is a very long game. Overall, this game is a masterpiece. Dark Souls is basically the Half-Life of hardcore RPG games, which many other games take note from. This game is brutal, relentless, and shows no mercy for the player. Basically, if you want to play, you gotta be fucking hardcore. If you're the kind of player who wants a ball-busting challenge, then buy this game, but remember to have a cup of tea to relax from time to time so that you don't break your controller or punch a hole into your monitor. I recommend picking up the remastered version for anyone who hasn't played Dark Souls in the past or never been bothered with the series. If you want to experience an epic adventure game with RPG structures, then this game is a no-brainer. You can pick it up from Steam for about 40 euros. I also recommend using an Xbox One controller with the game if you can, because the keyboard and mouse controls don't really feel right. They work, but this one I recommend playing with a controller. I know there is Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3, which I haven't tried out yet. Some people say Dark Souls 2 is the worst of them all, and that Dark Souls 3 is really good, and some say that Dark Souls 1 is the best of them all. Anyway, thank you for watching and listening. This was my review of Dark Souls Remastered on PC. This is Wrexpert signing out, and until then, I'll see you guys on my next review. Take care. Bye.